thank you so much for coming to my talk. It's so lovely to see you all here and to see some brave people on the front row. Thank you so much. I promise you, I will not be picking on you because I forgot to put audience interaction into this talk. So today, we are going to be talking about owning your niche, finding fans with audience insight. This is a topic that I am very passionate about, so I'm really excited to share some tips and tricks with you all. And I hope you like these little guides because they are throughout the entire presentation. Cool. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. So first is, why does this matter? Why should you care? Why should you even put in the effort to think about, how you're reaching out to your audiences and kind of having an audience plan? Then we're going to be talking about breaking down your game, which is really hard, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to do it. Creating audience personas, what they are, what I mean by them. Analyzing the available data that you have to hand, what we mean by niche and big content creators and how to work with them, targeting niches, and then at the end, I have examples and a how-to guide that is screenshot friendly, so you can take a picture and take it home with you. First off, let me introduce myself. That's me, here, that person. I'm Lou Jones. I go by they, she pronouns. I am a senior creative strategist at Yours Truly. We are a very nice and fun London-based agency for games and tech. The couple of clients that I've worked with include these lovely folks here. So you have Wizards of the Coast, Secret Mode, Bandai Namco, Frontier, just to name a few. All my clients are very lovely, and I'm sorry if you didn't make it onto this slide. I still love you. And my campaign strategies have led to some nominations as well, which is nice. It's very nice of them to do that. So I know what I'm talking about when it comes to campaign strategies, and I'm always looking to update my methods and keep them fresh. So here are what I'm currently working on and some campaign structures that I actually use day to day that you can take home with you. Cool. I told you there was going to be a lot of these little guys there throughout. So why does audience insight matter? By targeting your most obvious audience for your game, you are entering yourself into a part of the market that is oversaturated, and you're missing out on potential audiences that don't even know that your game is for them. So if you imagine you are just targeting, people who like shooters or people who like puzzle games, they are also being bombarded by hundreds, if not thousands of other folks that are targeting just puzzle lovers or just shooter lovers. And there is no more animations in this presentation. That is as exciting as it gets. So hopefully this talk is going to be able to take your, when you think about your audience, when you think about the audience of your game, it might be quite foggy, it might be quite unclear. You might just picture a group of faceless people. You don't know who they are, you don't know how they spend their time, you don't even know what they're like if you just sat down and had a coffee with them. Hopefully, some of the methods in this presentation will help you get to know them a little bit more. Cool, so even in super niche genres, if you're sitting there and you're like, well, I'm not doing a puzzle game, I'm not doing a shooter game, I'm doing something really eclectic and niche, there is still massive competition even in the nichest of genres. I was looking on Steam, and in 2023, for anyone who likes cozy farming games, they had 217 to pick from in 1 year. So even though you're like, oh, cozy farming games, there's only a few of it. No, over 200. So you still have to stand out. If you like medieval-based games, I've got great news for you. There are almost 900 that were released last year. So even just having a niche sometimes isn't niche enough. To succeed, you want to expand beyond just the people that like your niche thing and get very clever with your targeting. So, by identifying other defining features of your game that you might not have even known were there, you can unlock the ability to speak to multiple different communities and multiple different target audiences. So these hidden communities, these other audiences might play your game or see your game in a way that you never imagined. So being able to shift your messaging to talk to multiple different groups of people means that everyone is getting exactly the information they need to make a decision, no more, no less. And please, stay open-minded to your audience potential. Too many times I've seen folks who have a very strict idea of who's going to be playing their game, and they stick to it, and they block out information otherwise. Even if they're at an event and someone they didn't expect to like their game sits down and has a great time, they forget it, or they don't talk to that person, or it might not be on purpose, it might be unconscious, because you think, I've got it sorted. I know who my audience is. And when contradictory information comes to you, you block it out and you don't recognize it. Stay open-minded and be ready to be creative, even in strategy. Strategy can be creative. I'm going to say that so many times. So, breaking down your game, one of my funnest things to talk about. I promise it's not me dismantling your game. I'm not going anywhere near your code. I promise. I'm in marketing. I don't know how any of that works. The foundation of any good strategy, not only just your audience targeting, but any good strategy before you start anything, please, please, please sit down and ask yourself, what is my game? What are people, and ask yourself more complicated questions like, what is someone going to feel when playing my game? Where is it set, both in time, location? Is it in space? Where in space? Lock it down. What is the game not? This is sometimes the easiest question to start with. Just list out, it may seem super obvious, but start listing out exactly what your game isn't first, and keep trying to get as granular as you can, and then flip it, and then you might surprise yourself on what your game actually is. And what is your game's personality? We're going to be talking about personality a lot, and sort of personifying games and personifying audiences. I find it's one of the best ways to really understand what you're working with. Now, Lou, how do I break down my game? I'm so overwhelmed. I can't even talk about it in one sentence. I don't know what to do. It's fine. I've got 3 exercises for you. See? Came prepared. Take a picture of this. Feel free. These are 3 different exercises that I personally use anytime. Ooh, I touched my mic. I'm so sorry. Anytime I encounter a new game. So as an agency, we work with a lot of different titles, and I have to get to know them very quickly. These are 3 of the ways that I actively use to get to know a game. So first is my favorite, which is the personality test. If your game was a person, who would they be? How would they act? Would you like to have a drink with them? Would you not like to have a drink with them? Would they be super loud? Would they be quiet? Would they have a regular routine in their day? Or do they love spontaneity and they love doing exactly what they want the minute they feel it and they go off and do it? Or they like to do the same exact repetitions every single day? Are they the joke-telling kind, or are they quite serious? The list will go on. Get to know them. Sit down with them. Have a chat with them. Your game. I'm still talking in metaphors here, by the way. The second is finding a home. If your game's obvious genre, so puzzle, shooter, was removed from the face of the earth, it's not on Steam anymore. There's no Steam tag for your obvious genre anymore. What would you use? What tag would you use? What genre would you use? Okay, that one's gone. What are you using now? And start to take away the options you have until you really are looking in the eye of what your game is, and allow yourself to be surprised with what comes up. And thirdly, and this is a really fun one to get your team involved, even your marketing team, they play games sometimes, I promise, is celebrating versatility. So how many different ways can you play your game? Now, I know sometimes as developers, you can be a bit precious about your game being played a certain way, and then when you see someone at an event or a content creator play it in a slightly different way, you're like, that's not how it's supposed to be played, that's not how it's supposed to be done. Embrace it. I promise you, I know it's scary, but embrace it. Learn how other people play your game and talk to them. So people at events, your development team, how does your mum play it? Put your mum in front of your game. What does she think? How does she play it? Does she start to do things in your game that you didn't know people would do? Probably. Ask her why she did that. That's really interesting. Thank you so much, Mum. I love you. I'm going to talk about a campaign that I've used all these questions for to understand. So this is a game that I had the pleasure of working on. This is Fae Farm. It's a fantastical life sim that was launched by Phoenix Labs in 2023. And I had the privilege of working on the launch campaign for it. And here are some of the answers that I came up to when I was trying to understand the personality of Fae Farm. So it's equal parts familiar and mysterious. Now that's because Fae Farm it's a farming sim. People know what that's like. People have played Stardew Valley. But it's also got another layer of story. It's got another layer of combat. It's got things and opportunities that those normal farming sims don't have. So it's quite a warm person. It's quite a warm game when you first meet them. They feel familiar, but they're full of little hidden surprises. And they always encourage you to be who you are. because Faith Farm can be played in many different ways. So you can be a farmer, you can ignore the story and be an artist, you can be just the story, you can do collectors. So this is quite a friendly person to hang out with. They're very accepting of who you are. Like I said, more than meets the eye, and Faith Farm is often mistaken for its cousin, the simple farming sim, because it is much more detailed, much more elaborate, but it does have some relation to those very sort of basic life simmy farm games, which are great, by the way. Basic doesn't mean bad. And Faith Farm loves a good story, but has just as much fun when you deviate from it. So this is me getting to know my game. Now, when it's written down like this, and when I put silly little legs and an arm on a graphic here, you might think, Lou, this seems silly. This seems like a really silly way of getting to know a game. I promise you, the more you start putting personalities on the game, on your game, you're going to understand it so much more. You're going to be able to talk like it. You're going to be able to act like it. You're going to be able to evoke your game as a person. It's very exciting. So we're then going to take all of the bits and bobs that have come to mind through these questions, and we're going to create some audience personas. So what I would highly recommend is just grabbing a whiteboard and your team and just writing down words that you associate with your game and go wild with it. Just go absolutely ham with it. Anything that comes to mind that associates with your game. Some of the words may contradict each other. That's okay. That's good, in fact, because you have already started to identify that there are different parts of your games that different players might like. It's very exciting. So if your game is a very structured story, but also has sandbox mechanics, those two things shouldn't be in the same sentence, or should they? You can already identify that's two audience groups. Amazing. By color, I don't know if you can see the color very well here. So I just put all the words down that I associated with Faith Farm, and then I've tried to group them into thematic groups. Here are my thematic groups. Now, you may disagree with some of these. You may be like, Lou, I think this word should be in that group, and that word should be in this group. That's fine. You do your own audience groups. So I have these keywords together now in their general themes and vibes. This is going to be the beginning. This is the skeleton of our 4 audiences and who they are. Let's work on them a little longer. We're going to add a personality to them. Now, one of my favorite ways of understanding and beginning the... You can? Of course you can. Take as many pictures as you like. So the way I like to understand and develop audience personas is to put a little name to them. And I like a good, catchy name that I'll remember. So here, I thought, familiarity, storytelling, romance, cozy atmosphere, that's a cozy gamer. That is someone who likes to be wrapped up in their duvet and play Nintendo Switch. That's what that reads to me. Sandbox aspects, fantastical customization, building and decorating. What does all that have in common? Creativity, art, expression. That's my artist. Collections, mystery, a map that you can unlock and explore around. That's my completionist. That's someone who likes to see everything and will not stop playing until they're done. And then lastly, we have the chaotic friend. Got a friendly co-op, bit of player choice, bit of combat. This is someone that just likes to dive in with their mates, don't really care about the story. They're interested in the natural adventures that you have when you play with friends. So these are my little guys. Let's put personalities in them. So like I mentioned, I love to develop these out so I can really look at these as people. So by taking these keywords, at the moment, they just seem kind of like a bit of a list. Now I'm starting to develop them into a bit of a personality. So I've taken those keywords and formed full sentences with them. Nothing too tricky. I'm not going to read all of these out because that's quite a lot of words. But I'm trying to evoke the sense of what that person is instead of just having a list of 4 or 5 keywords. 4 or 5 keywords isn't a person, but curled up in their coziest outfit, snuggling into their duvet, this player uses games to unwind and escape from the world. That's a person. And we can start to see that person. And the fog starts clearing. And we can suddenly get an idea of, I think I know this person. I think I've encountered them before. I think I've seen them on Twitter or seen them on TikTok. Things are starting to develop. It's very exciting. This can even be done with game themes that are beyond the gaming community. So say you're at your whiteboard with your dev team, you start to whack down a bunch of words about your game, and you realize some of these words, you're not really going to find them in the games community. You might not even find them, gamers might not align themselves with some of the keywords that you've found. That's great, because that means you might be able to go outside of the gaming community with your marketing. So here's 3 different games that we did this with. So worked on Jurassic World Evolution 2 with Frontier. Now, we were very much like, we've got to get fans of dinosaurs involved, obviously. We've got to get some amateur paleontologists involved. That's exactly what we did. One of the foundational parts of our campaign was we worked with real paleontologists on TikTok to promote the game. Their audience wasn't used to being advertised games, because why would you? They're way too niche. Not for this game. The minute they saw their favorite dinosaur or paleontologist creator talking about a dinosaur game, and it was very cool, he even showed some of the bones of the real dinosaurs that you can find in the game, they were suddenly like, oh, maybe this game is for me. I never really thought that it was, but because we have spoken to them in their language, they have started to realize, oh, maybe this is a game I could get my teeth into. Did something similar for Wilds of Eldraine, which is a Magic the Gathering set. It's based on fairy tales and had lots of baked goods and cookies and cakes. And so we were like, okay, fairy tale lovers, yeah. Can we also get bakers involved? Would they like to play? Would they like to play a card game that's all about cakes and cookies? Yes, they would. We designed a campaign that where we reached out to creators that usually make baking content. And we got them to create baked goods based on art from the cards. And most of them went on to continue to play the set, because they were we managed to present it to them in a way where they were like, oh, okay, this art looks delicious. My cake is delicious. Well, while I'm here, I might as well give this game a go. We did. And thirdly, we have the fantastic Ollie Ollie World, which is published by Private Division. We wanted to, further than just arcade fans, we worked with skateboarders and people who like skate culture. By skate culture, I mean things like graffiti, like art, self-expression. And we were able to work with people who make skateboarding content online, who recreated some of the tricks from the game in real life. And again, the feedback we got was, I wouldn't have normally picked this up because it just kind of looks like an arcade skater game. But the level of detail to the skating within the mechanics really reflects what I do in real life. So now I can, skate outside when it's sunny and play Ollie Ollie World inside when it's raining. So if there's any words that come up on your whiteboard that feel weird, keep them there. I promise you they're useful. And like it says at the bottom here, this is super useful when you come to work with content creators. So please, please keep this in mind. Great. We have our personas. You're doing really well. Great job. Now we're going to talk about data. Now, some people say to me, like, Lou, why are we doing data second? Why have we come this far and not talked about data and demographics of audiences yet? Now, there's usually 2 types of marketers, I would say. Some that are data-led, and some that are person and emotion-led and data-backed. And that's what I would say that I am, and the methods that I take. I am person-first, and the data is there to reinforce the assumptions and the insights that I'm currently forming. So that is why data is a little bit lower in the list rather than first. Also, I'm a firm believer in the game community is incredibly vast, incredibly wide, and it is always developing. There's always new people in it. It's so hard to just put people in a box or quantify people. So I firmly believe that when you're talking about your audience, instead of being like, they are 18 to 35 and they play their Nintendo Switch 3 times a week. What does that mean? I don't know that person. That's boring. But data like that can be used after you've already started to get an idea of who those people are. What data should you be looking out for? Here are some questions. You can take a picture of this if you want. What age might your audience be? I will give you some sources on where to find this information in a second, don't worry. What content creators do they watch? Very important. If you want to try and figure this one out, look at your competitors and folks that are similar to you. Have a look at, are there a lot of videos of this game on YouTube? Are there a lot of videos of this game on Twitch, on TikTok? And just start to consume that content. Where do they hang out? If I plug Cozy Game into YouTube versus TikTok, which is going to give me more hits? It's TikTok, I know. But pretend I didn't know. I'm just finding out, like, where is the actual hub for those folks? What gaming lingo do they use and understand? Now, I'm not saying you need to hello fellow kids and start talking in, like, leet speak to your audiences, but understand what kind of language they use when they speak to each other, because you want to be as similar to that as you can, whilst also remaining a brand. Do they create and share content themselves? Who do they play games with, and who do they trust for game recommendations? Now, this might seem very like, Lou, how am I going to get this information? It's about integrating yourself into the communities which your audiences are. I'll talk about that in a second. For more hard facts and data, you can take a screenshot of this, it's fine. These are 4 sources I would highly recommend. They will share reports on multiple different gaming demographics across the industry. Newzoo also does ones outside of the games industry, which are super useful. I would highly, highly recommend. Yuki does regular reports, usually a few times a year. And I would also just keep an eye on agencies in general. Will sometimes release free reports, collect them, hoard them, keep them in a folder, because even if the data seems unrelated to what you're working on, you never know. You never know what weird thing you're going to be working on next. So get your data, get your numbers. Great. You've got your personas, you've got your keywords, you've got your data. We're going to put them all into the mixing pot. We're going to make our personas. It's okay if your demographic data doesn't fit in with your personas very well. That's fine. Like I said, we're trying to quantify human beings here. Famously, very hard to put in a box. But we're going to try. And here is my final audience persona list. We've got all our pieces together. You can see exactly the steps we've taken to get here. We have our catchy name, we have our demographics, and we have our evocative persona. So I'm starting to get an idea of who I need to be speaking to. And this is going to guide my messaging. It's going to guide how I frame my game. I basically need to be able to talk about this game in 4 different ways. They're all going to say the same thing. They're all going to communicate the same information, but I might use slightly different language than when I'm talking to the cozy gamer than when I'm talking to the completionist, because they'll care about different things. We're here. You did it. I'm so proud of you. Right. Now you gotta talk to them. Now you gotta talk to the audiences. You've done so much planning. You have to talk to them now. I'm sorry. Targeting niches. You have all this data. How do you use it? That's a great question. The 2 main things you have the tools for now are who your audience trusts. So who do they go to? What content creators? Do they play with friends? Where do they hang out? Those are the people they trust. And what language your audience responds best to. So like I mentioned, after spending a little bit of time in the cozy gamer community, I know what they value over the completionists. If I went to the completionist and started being like, you can romance 5 different people in this game, and you can collect a little hat in the shape of a frog, a completionist would look at me like, okay, the frog hat sounds cool, but other than that, they're not interested. Same thing if I swapped it around. So you're starting to understand what language to use. Now you need to integrate yourself into their community. And you don't have to pretend to be one of them. You can go in it as an observer. Watch the content they watch and be in the spaces that they're in and see how they react to that different content. And yes, I am saying that chilling out and watching TikTok is part of a job. If your boss says it isn't, you can show them this, because I promise you, spending time on TikTok, spending time on YouTube, spending time on Twitch in the audience fields that you are looking to get into is one of the best ways to understand your audience. Just sit in a Twitch chat of one of your competitors' games being streamed. See how they talk about it. What stuff do they like? What language do they use? Do they chat about the game much, or are they just talking to each other? It's all part of the work. Be an observer. Learn about them. Integrate, don't intrude. I say this all the time, and everyone at work is sick of me saying it. Integrate, don't intrude. Like I said, we are not doing a hello fellow kids thing here. We are going to before we start talking to people, we are going to try and understand them and understand what language they want. We're not just going to be full on in there like, oh, I've seen that my community is on TikTok. Great. I'm going to start commenting on all their TikToks and I'm going to post a bunch of TikToks and no. Take a step back. What TikToks do they make? Why do they like making them? How do they respond to them? And when you have all that information, then maybe give it a go. But integrate, do not intrude. So, all right, we're going to talk about niche versus big creators. So working with content creators to help promote your game, to access these niche audiences. Now, working with niche creators, and by that, I mean a usually much smaller creator that is very specific on one thing. So to give you an idea of what I kind of mean, so when Baldur's Gate 3 came out, which I'm sure is a game that everyone is aware of, we had essentially, I would say, two slots of creators making content about it. You have your first group of content creators who played Baldur's Gate as part of just a carousel of other titles they were playing. They may also play Starfield. They may also play Peggle. They may also play Professor Layton. That's the first game that came to my mind. That's very telling, isn't it? It's part of a carousel. It's just part of their like, oh, this is a new game that came out. I'm going to play it. That's great. That's fine. It's a good way to get a game in front of a larger audience that might not have tried it. Then, second pool is your D&D players, your LARPers, your fantasy fans, your Lord of the Rings fans, the folks that have been fantasy through and through, the folks that already know what a wood elf is before they've started playing Baldur's Gate. These are your niche creators. And as such, their audience reach is going to be a bit lower. And it is going to be, it might not get you, if you're looking just at views, it might not get you just the numbers that you want by working with these folks. However, they support that with unreal levels of engagement. These are people that make content about one specific thing or one specific theme, and the audience is there for that specific theme. So if you get that creator talking about that thing, you have an audience that is all ears. For the more variety folks, they're absolutely great, but their audience might just be there to watch their favorite streamer and chat about their day. They might not actually mind what game they're playing, and that's fine too. They're both super valuable as part of one big campaign. And being able to balance, variety creators versus specialized creators, you'll be able to make a more diverse campaign, which is great, both in terms of content type and creator background, something we are very, very passionate about. You're able to work with so many different people across so many different backgrounds. Simply put, screenshot this, working with a big creator says, this game is for everyone and everyone can play it. Working with a niche creator says, this game is for you. This game has been made specifically for you. And you can't have a campaign that is just one or just the other. You've got to have a balance of both. I'm just going to wait. You taking a picture? Great. Just checking. Cool. We're reaching the end. You've got there. How do you do this? What examples can I show you? It's all here. How do I balance niche and big creators? How do I structure a creator campaign to target these audiences? Lou, how do I actually do this? It all sounds great. Don't worry. It's fine. I got a plan. It's called the core to complementary pyramid, trademark pending. I need to think of a catchier name for it, to be fair. I am taking suggestions. But we'll stick with core to complementary pyramid for now. This is how I structure 90% of my campaigns as a strategist. So I don't know why I'm giving this away for free. This is my bread and butter. This is what pays the rent. So when working on a game, at the very top, I have my hyper-specific niche creators. So if I'm using the Baldur's Gate example, that's my LARPers. That's my D&D players. I'm not going to work with loads of them because, like I mentioned, their views might not be fantastic, and usually, I want a good amount of views, but they are going to create content that's going to speak directly to their audiences. So usually, I don't need to actually work a lot with a high amount of them because they're speaking to the same audience, speaking to the same people. Usually, if you talk to someone, you go, oh, I love watching train simulator content. They can probably name 5 or 6 train simulator creators that they watch. So if I work with 2 of them, I'm probably going to cover the entire community. That is then supported by niche adjacent. What do I mean by niche adjacent? Don't worry, I'll get to an example in a moment. These are people that are on the outskirts of your niche, so fantasy fans, Dragon Age fans for Baldur's Gate. So you can see niche adjacent, but not fully integrated into the niche. And at the bottom, we have variety creators, who are the folks that will give any game a go and usually are on the bigger side. So these are your sort of bigger like Twitch streamers, YouTubers, that kind of thing. And that creates our lovely quarter complementary pyramid. Or you can have them as pillars, whatever you like. I like a pyramid, looks nice. I will now show you a campaign example. So this was our campaign for the launch of Ollie Ollie World. So at the top here, I have my hyper-specific niche creators. I worked with skateboarders, like real-life skateboarders, that, like I said, recreated tricks from the game in real life. They were able to speak exactly to the skateboarding community, and they were able to convert people that didn't really think that maybe even gaming was for them. Suddenly, they're being presented with a game that's exactly for them, exactly made for them. And then that is supported by my niche adjacent creators. Now here on the left here is the lovely Esther. She created skate-inspired outfits inspired by the characters in the game. So by niche adjacent, for me, when I was looking into skate culture, is super about expressing yourself, be it through your board or be it through your outfit. So I worked with Esther to create these skate culture-inspired outfits based on characters from the game. I also worked with cosplayers who either cosplayed people from the game or cosplayed famous skateboard-loving anime characters who decided to play this game together. I love it. I love content creators. I love this job so much. And then we have our variety creators at the bottom. So these are folks that speak to a much wider audience, but they are such a valuable foundation. So you can see it's your more generic, like, hey, come and play this game. It's really cute and fun. Here's a fun trailer. Here's me playing a little bit of it. Here's me talking about why I like it. A bit more, a bit more open, less specific. And then you're able to have this nice, lovely pyramid. Wow. Another thing to note is introducing a feeling of niche to your variety creators. Now this is, I would say this is kind of like a little bit of an advanced step, but all you really need to do to get there is hang out with content creators and get to know them and understand who they are and what they like. And by being able to understand what content they exactly like making, who their friends are, and what they actually enjoy, you can add a layer of specificity to even the most generic variety content. So what do I mean by that? So on the left here is a video that we worked with creator Call Me Kevin on. Now, Kevin has a very varied YouTube channel. Every single one of his videos is about something different. And we didn't think that he was going to speak directly to, we love the reach that he gets, we love his audience, but we weren't sure he was going to speak to the exact right people that we really wanted to get to for Faith Farm. However, we knew that Kevin has a lovely partner called Anna, who also makes content. And she loves cozy things, she loves creating things. So we thought, why not pair them up together? Have them play the game together, have Anna be cozy and cute and show off that side of the game, and have Kevin show off our chaotic, co-op, adventurous, does what he wants when he wants it vibe, but at the exact same time to show people that both can coexist at the same time. We initially commissioned Kevin for a 20-minute video, and he came back with an hour and 20-minute long video because he loved the opportunity to play with his partner so much, and the game suited them so much that they were able to make something much more detailed. And then this campaign was then supported by many views. I always feel a bit bashful reading them out, but 1.7 million views on supportive content, which was folks that were a bit more specific to our niche, a bit more, talking directly to fantasy, farming, and life sim fans. Cool. I think I'm doing great for time. Thank you. So I have a how-to guide for you. This is the second to last slide before questions. So this is a summary of everything I've just said. I told you I made a slide specifically for taking a picture of. This is something you can take home and actively do. So number one, keywords. Break your game down. Get to know it. Who is it? Buy it a coffee. Group those words into themes. Identify what vibe of player that those themes are describing. Pinpoint any themes that sit outside of gaming. Use data to reinforce your audience personas. Integrate, do not intrude in their communities. Identify creators that are both close and far from your niche. Build your campaign using the core to complementary pyramid, trademark pending. Allow yourself the permission to be creative. And finally, listen to your new audiences. What are they saying to you? What's their feedback? I'm really sorry to say the work doesn't stop here. You have to keep listening to them. You have to keep accepting their feedback. You have to keep having conversations with them. It's not enough to just put your content out there and assume it's going to hit the people you want to hit. You've done as much planning as you can, but like I said, these are people you're trying to target, and people are very, very hard to put into boxes. But, you know, this should help. Cool. That's the presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, that's very nice. I think we have one. I believe you're going to be delivered a mic. Get yourself ready, yeah.
We need a mic.
Just here, please.
Thanks for the presentation. Really super interesting. That pyramid you showed, you should definitely trademark. It's a very cool looking pyramid.
Thank you.
How do you think about budget share in these different categories?
That is a great question. So usually what I find is the creators at the bottom, the bigger creators, will take up a significant amount of your budget because they are usually bigger, so they're usually more expensive. I do find the more niche a creator, they do tend to get a little bit cheaper because they don't get as many sponsorship opportunities because they are so niche. So if you imagine you are someone who only makes content on, I don't know, like puzzle games, that really limits the amount of, you know, opportunities that creator is going to get. So you're able to, usually they're a little bit cheaper, and also because their reach is a little less. So I would actually kind of split it in the way that this pyramid is sort of laid out, with the majority of your budget at the bottom and a few select niche creators at the top to really get into that audience.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question. I think just behind.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. It's very interesting. I think I have a few questions, but I will start from the first one. So I think when you are actually doing the persona development, we are trying to understand, or at least I think you're trying to understand your players in the individual level. However, when we're trying to develop these personas, we are sort of categorize them or trying to put them into the group. I'm just wondering how you actually balance inside of to avoid being stereotyped to them or avoid the bias to them, or like how you manage this balance. And my second question, sorry, I have many questions.
That's okay.
And second one is more about when you're actually working with these creators or the content creators, how much freedom you actually gave into them. I think manage this freedom, but also keep the content inconsistent with the brand value is also something quite important these days.
Yeah, both great questions. Did you have a third one?
Yeah, that's the last one.
Okay, because I'm about to forget the first one.
Third one is because of the AI, now I think they allow you to personalize all your marketing effort, or at least a sort of more personalized compared with before. Like how you're gonna make the best use of that, or is that actually being considered to use these days? That's my three questions. Do you need me to repeat the first one?
No, I think I've got it.
Cool.
To quickly address the third one, I am skeptical of AI at the moment. I would need to see more evidence that it is useful in audience targeting before I sort of gave anything to it. So that's my short answer to the AI question. The first question about how do you prevent bias when grouping people into personas, is that correct? I think that's a fantastic point. I think you have to be what I would think about more as guides rather than every single one of my players has to slot into one of these. It's probably that they probably slot into multiple of them. And when the information comes through, it's about really looking at, you know, what exactly the audience that you're slotting it into is, rather than allowing your biases to take over. I also would highly recommend, we at Yours Truly are very lucky to have a very diverse team of both ages, backgrounds, races, genders, everything. So being able to have someone else come in, from a background that I don't represent, and being able to review those audience personas from their perspective allows me to make sure, because bias is going to be naturally unconscious in a lot of us. Having someone else come in from a different background and review those and make sure that they're fair is super valuable. Even if it's just, if you don't have a super big team, you just have a marketing specialist come in or a freelancer come in just to double check your work, super valuable. Second question, I'm doing these out of order. The second question, which is about creative freedom, is a great question. I could do a presentation on that for an hour, but I would highly recommend allowing your creators to be as creative as possible. So, allowing them, what we do is we design a brief that will have exactly, these are the 3 key things that we want to communicate about this game. Otherwise, it's really kind of balls in their court. We still get sign off, we still get approval, but it sounds risky and it sounds dangerous. And to a lot of developers, it sounds scary to allow a creator to do exactly what they want. But the more freedom you're able to give them, the more organic their content is going to feel. They're going to speak, that they're your translators. I like to think of them, you're saying to them, hey, my game is this. Can you tell your audience my game is this? And they're like, yeah, they'd like that. But what if I say it in this way? Or what if I present it in this way? They're your translators to that community. So you need to trust them. It takes a little bit of risk, is a little bit scary, but I promise you it does pay off. Oh, you're welcome. I think, how are we doing on time? Got 3 minutes. Hi.
Some of the personas seem to clash, and you gave a really good example of how that can really work for you. Do you think there's any risk that that could confuse the messaging and maybe put some people off?
Absolutely. So I think it's about being careful with who you're speaking to in what piece of content. And also, it's very hard. A lot of people try to, have one sentence of a game that will appeal to every single member of their audience. It's just never going to happen. But I think it's about making sure you're highlighting the right features in the right places. I'll do a really quick example. I worked on Park Beyond, which is a Bandai Namco roller coaster game. I spent a lot of time in the roller coaster sim community understanding what they do and don't like about roller coaster sims. If I then took all that information and spoke to a non-roller coaster sim fan and was like, yeah, well, this one hasn't got those lateral staggering roller coaster tracks that you guys hate, they'll be like, what? I don't care. This seems way too complicated for me. So it's just about making sure that when you're working with a specialized creator, you can have specialized messaging. When you're working with a variety creator, you want a bit more varied messaging. So it's a tricky balance, it is, but it is doable. 2 minutes. Got one more question?
Thanks. That was a great talk. A lot of your framework seems to be focusing on classifying audiences by traits. And my question is more about dynamism. People, just like audiences, can change over time.
Yep.
And I just wondered if you had any advice that you'd like to speak to about that dynamic element where the start of a campaign may have to transform, and how you do that.
No, absolutely. That's such a great point. And being able to revisit your strategy throughout a campaign is so valuable. I think a lot of folks think, strategy's done, plan's done, that's it, hands off. I'm just going to go and do my campaign now. But being able to, especially if your campaign is into phases, so say announcement, demo, launch, going back to your strategy and double checking, because every single one of my strategies that I write is bespoke to exactly that moment in time. So when you actually go out and start talking to creators, it might be like 3 months after you wrote the strategy. You have to keep an eye and essentially be honest when things have changed and shifted. I'm never afraid to tell a client, look, this is what the internet was like when I wrote the strategy. This is what it's like now. So I think it's just about being honest, transparent, and blotting in time into your schedule to go back, look at your plan, and make sure it's still valid to the state and the culture of the internet that you're in. Great. I think that's it. Thank you so much, everyone.